for the people. This is street radio for unsung hero. Riding in the Rego, trying to stay legal. My daughter found Rego, I found.
Hey everybody, this is Cruella DeVille of React Radio.
This is Guys Kabir, React Radio. We live at Classic Cuts with Muskegon Heights City Manager Jake Eckholm. Did I pronounce your last name right?
Yep, Eckholm. It's kind of a tricky one. Yep.
Eckholm, okay. How you doing, sir?
Doing real well. How are you doing?
Doing pretty good. And, first and foremost, appreciate you taking time out to sit with us and do an interview with us with React Radio. And first question I have is, do you want to open up and just tell the city and the community about yourself?
Yeah, sure.
Okay.
Yep. So as you mentioned, my name's Jake. Born and raised in the Muskegon area, and graduated from Orchard View High School, class of 2008. So
Cardinal.
Yep, Cardinal. Yeah, and my wife and I, we actually live in the city of Muskegon right now. So in the NIMS neighborhood, and really committed to the area. We both decided we wanted to. Kind of make our careers and set up roots here. So that was kind of what got me into the field in the first place, was wanting to make a positive impact here in the Muskegon community. And so yeah, we've got 2 dogs, and we've got a 6.5-month-old daughter named Avery. So she's a lot of fun. Yep, and pretty much kind of family oriented, and got a lot of family and friends around here that I like to keep up with.
Okay, that's cool. Where did you go to school to get your education outside of high school?
Yep. So after I graduated from OV, I went across the street to MCC. We used to joke at OV it was called 13th grade because everybody went across the street. Yeah. And so I went to MCC and got my associates, and actually originally planned to go to law school and become an attorney, either in the prosecutor's office here for like restorative justice, or as like an advocacy attorney for people with disabilities and civil rights law, that kind of stuff.
Okay.
I wanted to do that in the area, and got through my MCC education, and then in 2010 transferred over to Grand Valley State University, where I majored in political science and international relations for my bachelor's. And so plan was to go to law school. And like 6 weeks, from 8th grade until right before I got my bachelor's degree, that's where I was going to do. I was going to go to law school.
Okay.
Got into a really good law school, had a roommate set up, a friend of mine from undergrad, and about 6 weeks to a month until I graduated, I really started getting cold feet. Like, I don't know if this is the right thing for me.
Okay.
The price tag was part of it. It was like a $300,000 education to go to this law school. And then on top of that, I was like, I'm really committed to going back to the Muskegon area. And how many jobs are going to be there? They're going to A, let me pay my student loans, and B, really make the kind of impact I want to make. And so I had a professor there that I trusted that I went and talked to, and because I knew he had gone to law school for a year and then dropped out. And so once I talked to him, he said, well, don't tell me what job you want, tell me what you want to do. And that was a really good piece of advice, because it got me thinking, like, I want to go back to Muskegon, I want to make a positive impact. I want to kind of combat the negative stigma, because everyone that's grown up here, we're surrounded by other communities, and a lot of times those communities, people from those communities, including family of mine, kind of look down on the Muskegon area a little bit, and historically, and that's getting better, and I wanted to be a part of that. I wanted to combat that negative stigma, and so he gave me that advice, have you considered an MPA? And I said, what's an MPA? And it's a Master's of Public Administration. So I ended up staying at Grand Valley for graduate school, and got my worked full-time and commuted back over there. Came back to Muskegon and worked full-time and commuted, and got my Master's in Public Administration.
Okay, that's good. What are the roles? What are your roles and duties as the city manager from Muskegon Heights?
Yep, so like a common misconception is that a city manager is like a political position. It's actually not. It's so compare it to like the head administrator or CEO of a company, but for a government. So it's my job to oversee all the departments. I serve at the pleasure of the city council. So city council, they collectively hire a city manager, and we're all, for the most part, contract employees. So we have employment contracts with cities. So we're not elected. A lot of people think I'm elected too. That's a common misconception. Or like, what's the difference between me and a mayor? The mayor is the elected executive. So in the city of Muskegon Heights, they run specifically for mayor, and the mayor presides over the city council. And then the city council collectively, including the mayor, hire me, and then I run the city's day-to-day operations, oversee all the various departments. We have 9 departments in the city of Muskegon Heights. So all staffing, budgeting, setting up the finances for the city, managing the finances with the department heads, economic development efforts, and then also intergovernment collaboration, so working with other cities and other city managers on regional stuff. Yep. That's my day-to-day.
Okay, that's pretty cool. You have any questions, Cruella?
I'm not sure where you left off.
Oh, what are your plans for the city of Muskegon Heights?
Well, I think first and foremost, I really don't want it to be like my plans.
Right.
I really am very team oriented, and I've been here just over a year. It was a year October 3rd, and so all the department heads, myself, the frontline staff, we've worked really hard to put together this development model, saying here are the specific goals we've got for moving forward, this kind of development. Some of those, there's really 4 core tenets. One is economic development, so restoring our commercial corridors. One of the big misconceptions about the city is that there are no businesses. That's not true, but our traditional downtown corridor has kind of become more vacant than occupied.
Right.
And so, we reestablished a DDA, a Downtown Development Authority, and we've got a really active DDA board of citizens that own business interests in the downtown, and we're working on filling those storefronts, and we're being pretty successful. We filled 4 in the last year, so that's a pretty good rate. Beyond that, beyond economic development, it's also community development is another tenet, and that's really everything from like combating blight, investing in the housing stock, investing in neighborhood associations, investing in recreational opportunities for our youth and our residents. So we did a Movies in the Park program this last summer, and that went over really well. Yeah. We had 6 events. Next year we're hoping to incorporate not only movies in the park, but also music in the park, and doing concert series. We've done community Christmas tree lighting. We're doing a trunk or treat at Rowan Park with the Optimist Club coming up for Halloween.
Okay, that's cool.
Yeah, so we're trying to do more and more things that kind of make community, trying to give people positive things to do with their families in the city limits. And that's the community development side. The other big one is infrastructure investment. So.
I know that millage just passed back in August.
It did, yep. August 8th, it passed by a 60%, 40% margin. And one of the things that I've noticed is, the biggest question I get is when are people going to start seeing the results of that? And so that'll show up on people's winter taxes coming up this coming year. And so we should be able to do our first set of projects in fall of 2018. So there should be active streets projects going on in fall of 2018.
All right. Are there any specific streets that you guys trying to target? Because I know I remember coming to the board meeting. I remember you explaining the different type of streets and the infrastructure of the streets, and then as far as compared to streets that has the most damage and least damage, and then as far as streets that's occupied with neighborhoods and citizens and everything.
Yep. So the focus of these millage dollars, and it should be between $470,000 and $500,000 a year that we generate with that millage. The concentration will be in neighborhoods, so residential streets. We plan on micro sealing, which is an asphalt concrete overlay on a lot of those streets. We plan on doing about 15 to 20 blocks a year in micro surfacing, and then the really bad ones, like your Reynolds, portions of Columbia, portions of 8th Street, that's not adequate, so we have to actually tear those out and do what's called a mill and fill. So you can grind up that existing street, use it as a base, and pour new asphalt over it. We know that we're going to be proposing to the city council this coming year doing Reynolds Street from Manahan to Hovey, I believe. So, so about 3 city blocks of surface, and that's resurfacing. It'll be 3 to 6 blocks a year, and then micro surfacing and preventative maintenance like crack sealing and chip sealing. We're looking at 15 to 20 blocks a year.
Okay.
Yep.
And I know you just said the trunk or treat for the kids for Halloween. What day would that be on?
That's on Halloween. We're going to do that during trick or treat time. At Rowan Park in the parking lot. So it's put on by the Muskegon Heights Optimist Club, and the city is partnering to help find participants. So yep. So that'll be taking place during our normal trick or treat hours. I believe they're 6 to 8.
6 to 8. Yeah.
Yeah, and so that'll be going on right downtown at Rowan Park.
Okay.
What in terms of recruiting for new businesses downtown Heights, are there any plans for generating more?
Yeah, yep. So as we were saying, the Downtown Development Authority, we have they own a certain amount of storefronts, and we actually have all of them except one either under contract or open with new businesses. So we actually have Sisters Gifts and More, which is a nice retail stop. Yeah, that's a nice shop. And then we also have Reed Muskegon, that's a DDA property. We have a coffee shop that's under contract to go in, one of our storefronts on Broadway, and then also a tax and financial services company that caters specifically to the African American community. I mean, they'll accept anybody. It's called New Republic Financial. But it's So they're opening a franchise, working on opening a franchise on Center Street. So we're actually getting along at a pretty good clip. If you go citywide, we're seeing commercial real estate transactions or new business developments around every 3 weeks and 5 days over the last year, which is a very good average. So, I mean, we're averaging one new business a month, which is nice. Yeah.
What about the park, making that functional? Because you said that you want to bring that family element back.
You mean Mona Lake Park?
No.
Rowan
Making
Park.
that more like maybe a community garden, or like how they have downtown by the farmers market, the little water spout thing.
Yeah, splash pad. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. So that's kind of like a pipe dream of mine. Is I'd really like to see a splash pad go up in Rowan Park, where that existing amphitheater is, that concrete circular amphitheater. I think that'd be a cool thing to turn into a splash pad. Well, yeah, as far as like community use of that park as a meeting space. So like first and foremost, technically the park is closed. It's only supposed to be open for special events. This winter, I'll be working with the city council, hopefully getting the votes to reopen that park, because we feel confident that we can police it and make sure that it's used for wholesome purposes.
Right.
We really are committed to continuing the Movies in the Park summer series, because that went really well. We had 50 kids a lot of the time, and that we got this big inflatable movie screen. It was really cool event.
Yeah, I rode past this past summer. I think the last one I remember seeing was the Kung Fu Panda.
Yeah, Kung Fu Panda. Yeah, that was one of ours that we showed, and and then adding a concert series into that as well. So doing like musical performances in the off weeks. We don't do movies in the park. But as far as amenities at that park, really the park that we've been focused on as far as family amenities is Mona Lake Park. So just this last year, people may notice when they're driving by, or if they go in there, we actually, from the boat launch all the way to the beach, we completely reclaimed all that property. It was overgrown and like way out into the water. You couldn't even see the water. And so we tore all that out and like reestablished a beachfront. And then we also graded the beach and then put a foot of sugar sand down from Lake Michigan. So we've got a nice beachfront there now. We're focused really heavily on cleanup out there, and we also just did a small renovation of the bathrooms out there to make them a little nicer too. So we're really trying to focus family events out there as well. So we just had the tailgate out there as well as at the school, and that went over really well despite being very windy. Yeah, that was.
What about the pavilion?
The pavilion? Yeah. So.
I remember being a child and we used to have little elementary dances at the pavilion.
Yep, and that's definitely one of our main priorities citywide. One of our main capital projects I'd like to see happen outside of infrastructure is getting that up and running. So what we've done is we've actually been selected to be a part of a millage that's coming up countywide. It's a countywide vote. It's called the Quality of Life Millage. So there's a series of projects around the community, around the county, that were selected to be part of that. And one of them for us, the city of Muskegon Heights, we were selected. And so the project we chose was a renovation of the Mona Lake Pavilion, Martin Luther King Pavilion. So the council has expressed interest in keeping that city-owned, like city-operated. So, at first we were kind of looking for private sector partners to come in and like lease it from us. Like we'll renovate the outside, you renovate the inside, and lease the space to get it up and running. But the council would really like to see it stay like owned and operated by the city. That being said, I think as soon as next year, I'm really hoping the old concession stand area, the garage area right there, I'd really like to find someone to run a concession stand and kayak rentals out of there. So like I think it'd be really cool to have like a bait and tackle and like candy, pop, that kind of stuff for the boaters and the people using the park, and then actually renting kayaks that people can launch from the beach and actually kayak around in Mona Lake. I think that'd be really nice to have. Yeah, and then long term, we hope to renovate the upstairs and have that as an event center for community functions. So rentable space. Yeah, that's the long term goal. Yeah.
I know. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
With the I'm changing subjects, but residential one for citizens, we see a lot of housing and old abandoned buildings being torn down. So now there are vacant lots.
Yep.
There are some houses that can be fixed up that are still standing.
Yep.
What can the average citizen do to find out, one, who owns that property, and two, if that property is for sale?
Yep. So the best thing to do if you have questions about a property, it's public knowledge, ownership and property cards and stuff. So come into City Hall and speak to Charlotte, who is she's in the utility billing window there. There's two of them, but she's the assistant to the city assessor. So, and if you have an address, or like even can give her a close approximation, like what 100 block that lot is in, she can help you find it, and just determine who owns it. And if it's a city-owned lot, residential lots that are contiguous to other people's properties or in the neighborhood of other people's properties, if you want to buy one and maintain it, we usually take an offer of $100 plus closing costs. So for a couple $100, like that lot can be yours as long as you'll maintain it. And we've had, and if you want to do that, it's simply submitting an offer letter to my office, and there's a committee of department heads that look it over. We go out and look at it and say, okay, yep, there's their house, there's the lot, they're going to take care of it. And we have a few of those come in every month or so.
Okay.
But, the long term,